these two great powers in terms of United States and China, why there would be a preferential treatment with Indian Union. People would quote that they have got huge population anyway. Well, Africans have a huge population as well. There is around 1.4 billion people residing on African continent. So it's not just India which has this potential of demographic advantage. There are other regions and areas. We in ECO region, we are around 500 million people too. And the era is of connectivity, the talk is of corridors and bringing all the regions together. American continent on its own has got a huge potential and demography as well, from Latin to South America, from South to the rest of the American continent, North America. So they have got a region of their own. Until and unless we do not see that the kind of challenges which are emerging and offering itself to the current, if we take the framework of nation states, that these are the challenges which cannot be taken on their own either by one single power or even group of power. Let's say climate change. Can climate change be tackled or addressed on its own by United States of America, or by European Union, or by India in itself, or by China, or by the rest of the Asian countries, or by South Americans? Of course not. Climate change is becoming an existential threat, even sometime more than the military challenge. I mean, we have recently experienced this in the floods of Pakistan last year, that it brings more devastation than some small conflicts, or even people or scientists are anticipating they can bring more devastation than major conflicts. So what do you do? How do you respond to these challenges of climate change? Then there are economies which are contributing to their domestic economies on the basis or on the areas which are responsible for bringing this climate change disaster. How do you morph those economies where the mitigation can be addressed, and at the same time this transformation of those economies is morphed into green economies? So the answer remains that there has to be some global coordination and cooperation on this account, at least. Major conflicts around the world, be it on the European continent or other continent, we are now realizing that if we become selective and we choose double standard on the definition of war ethos, when it is happening on European continent, we will violently, particularly in terms of Russo-Ukrainian war, or if it is recently happening in Middle East, what is the entire globe is experiencing one of the medieval, or even probably there is no parallel in the medieval world of such barbaric and horrific acts which are being committed by the state of. It's not of condemning one part or the other part. It is about those prime human values. How do you respond to killing of children? I've been challenged by a few of my Western diplomats here that, well, Israeli children have been also killed. Well, I wonder to that query that, fine, I accept this, that the killing of any children is condemnable, be it of any faith or origin. So how many Palestinian children have to be killed to appease and address that Israeli anger? 1, 5, 10, 500, 1,000, 4,700? Can they give us a number so we can satisfy those parents that, wait, some 10,000 children needed to be killed so that Israeli anger is addressed. This is unacceptable, utterly unacceptable. And the kind of narrative which is being trying to be generated is even more surreal and bizarre. So who would be defining those value systems in terms of geographical context? If the conflict is on the European continent, the entire war definition, the international law perspective would be altogether different. I was going through an article in The Economist where they legally tries to rationalize the Israeli intervention in the Gaza Strip by giving pure legal jargons. And this was even a bigger shame. It is not at all about legality, and the entire legal structure of the world or the lawgivers, starting from divine to the parliament, has been that you have to provide a sense of justice. And the justice has to be felt and seen. The justice has to be, at least should have some semblance of objectivity. Nobody can rationalize the killing of 4,700 children. I've been saying this all along, that in human history, I've heard the killing of children on the advent of Moses' birth. The pharaohs ordered that all the children among the Bani Israel has to be killed, as he was feared that a child is going to be born and he will challenge the authority of Pharaoh. And then ironically, I see the killing of children by the same people who claim and adhere to the value of Moses and claim that they do believe in his prophethood. There has to be some soul searching. And there has to be some honest soul searching. When we've been asked or we've been suggested to condemn a group, well, the more or less reason that there should be a Palestinian state, they should be primarily responsible to take on any challenges if it is coming from a Palestinian population. If you do not have a viable state, non-state actors would be there on their own, and they will take on all those narrative, and they'll take and champion the cause of the people, and they would respond according to the best of their judgment, and which at times wouldn't be in the best interest of the region or the people living on either side. But if you do have a framework, which you have for the rest of the world, and that is nation state, why deny these people the same framework on which the global order is surviving? Coming back to our own region, we do have a lot of opportunity to have connectivity from the Central Asia to West Asia to the Caucasus, and from here even there are opportunities to rest of the South Asia. But one of the prime area which is of main impediment is the issue of Kashmir. Kashmir is an area which deserves, which needs, which requires some serious attention. And that attention has to be, again, according to the people of Kashmir, not according to Pakistan or according to India. There are some living human beings who have their own aspirations for the last 70 years, and there are in millions. And the Forum of United Nations has promised them through its resolutions that they would look into their aspirations, political aspirations, and would seek and ask them that what is their political destiny and future, and that would depend on a plebiscite in which they would be asked, rather than Pakistan imposing a solution or India imposing a solution. And how on earth all these democratic powers, someone big, someone mid-sized, someone small, but all claiming to be Democrat, deny this basic democratic exercise to the Kashmiri people? I mean, I'm astonished. How could we do that? Well, you can postpone this. You can postpone this, I would even refer it to the Middle East and Kashmir both, to a year, 2 decade, 4, 5, 10, 20, 3 centuries, 5 centuries, but it has to be addressed. The nations, they have patience. The nations with a sense of history, they can outlive any sort of colonization and know how to survive and outlive those colonization. It has been taught to all of us in the lessons of history. Otherwise, with distinct identity, these nations, these groups wouldn't have survived for generations. There are multiple examples where people have been colonized for even centuries. But eventually that colonization does receive its own part of challenge. And that challenge does get some sort of conclusion. We, on the other side, on the western border, I hope that the governance challenges in Afghanistan, the recent transformation gets settled, because it is pivotal for us as far as our connectivity with the Central Asia is concerned. And this is a wholesome region. And this region has historical connectivity socially, culturally, with one another. I was on a recent visit to Uzbekistan, and I discovered there are around 3,000 plus words of Uzbek language in Urdu. I do not see that kind of amalgamation with Sanskrit or with other probably South Indian languages. But there are languages of Central Asia, be it Turkmen, Tajik, Uzbeki, and others, which has deep impact on our language, on our culture, on our poetry, on our storytelling, the way people dance, the way they celebrate their folk music, so on and so forth. You do see that identification and commonality with these people. And then there is a huge economic potential in terms of energy, in terms of human services interacting with each other, and offering itself as a manufacturing hub to the outside world, to the Eastern Europe, to the Western Europe, to the rest of Asia. Does Pakistan want that India should be excluded from all this story? Not at all. Not at all. We do see the opportunity and benefit of having trade and connectivity on the eastern side as well. But for that, in order to realize, Pakistan does feel that every individual and nation has to interact in a dignified way. You can't beg to have trade with someone. Begging is not an option, and we definitely will not. Trade and economic activity has to be done through mutual benefit. India is a large economy, it is with a rich population, but if it wants to transform itself into a growth rate between 8 to 10, it has to ensure that it receives unsustainable cheap supply of energy. Until and unless it is not there, I don't think so those lofty economic indicators can be attained. And this region, this corridor, is one way, one option of ensuring to supply that energy supply, unsustainable energy supply to them. We are quite ready, we are quite open to such ideas. But if the other side is going through a disease of hubris, and hubris is a kind of a disease which has been there all along with different individuals, corporate sectors, countries, and everywhere, anywhere, it has come with a single result. Yet to see an exception, and that result is failure. No might, doesn't matter how big you are in size, how mighty you are in militarily or economically, if you are experiencing hubris, the certain recipe is disaster. I'm not trying to be a history teacher over here, but anyone interested to examine this statement can go through the books of history and find it for themselves. So if the neighborhood is going through that, I do not see that it could be converted into an economic opportunity which would be mutually benefit for the whole of the region. We are quite happy that they are having a good trade relations with China, despite their border disputes, despite their differences over the outlook of the world. But they are still doing trade. Pakistan has not shied away from that. Yes, we will examine, we will look into it, that what sort of a trade is beneficial for us. It would not be free for all, it would be a conscious decision. It is our right to examine our own interests, it's their right to examine their own interest and have a framework, if it comes to that, of having good economic relations with one another. But for that, we do need to speak out about the conflicts which exist between us. Until and unless we do not address that, Pakistan feels that having normal relations with the current regime would be very challenging. I won't call it impossible, but it's very challenging. The politics of Hindutva is another challenge. People are very much interested in the radical views of Al-Qaeda and Daesh and other Islamic radical entities. But I am surprised that how do they choose to ignore the politics of Hindutva, which primarily is altogether different to the religion of Hinduism. We don't have any issue with the religion of Hinduism. Pakistan has its own minority of Hindus, more or less more than 20% in the province of Sindh, and a very promising and committed minority who contributes culturally, socially, economically to the province of Sindh and overall to Pakistan. Hindu amongst the Sikhs are one of the most beautiful, along with Christians, are a minority which cherishes its security, prosperity, and shares a common destiny with the rest of Pakistanis.
सब्सक्राइब करें और बेल दबाएं ताकि कोई खबर रह न जाए।